Long before Germany was a country, tribes lived in the forests and fields of Central Europe. These were people like the Cherushi and the Suebi. They didn't make their own coins at first. Instead, they used money from their powerful neighbors. Imagine a Germanic warrior, perhaps after a raid or through trade, holding a shiny Roman coin. This coin, a denarius, was made of silver. It had the face of a Roman emperor on it. For the tribes, these coins were not just for buying things. They were symbols of wealth and power. They were often melted down to make beautiful jewelry, like brooches and arm rings, showing off the owner's status. The Romans were not the only ones whose money found its way into Germanic hands. The Celts, who lived in areas to the south and west, also had their own fascinating coins. Celtic coins were often made of gold and were artistically very different from the Roman ones. They didn't have realistic portraits. Instead, they were decorated with swirling patterns, strange beasts, and symbolic shapes. These coins, sometimes called rainbow cups because they were often found after heavy rain washed them out of the soil, were highly valued. For the early Germanic peoples, both Roman and Celtic coins were exotic, precious objects that connected their world to the great empires around them. So, how did they use this foreign money? It was a bit of everything. A Roman merchant might pay a Germanic tribe with a sack of silver coins for amber or furs. A warrior who served in the Roman army might bring his pay back home. These coins became a standard for value. You could understand how much a cow or a sword was worth by comparing it to the weight of silver in these coins. It was the first step towards a monetary economy. The idea of using small metal discs to represent value was taking root, even if the discs themselves came from faraway lands and featured the faces of foreign rulers. This early period shows us that money is all about trust and connection. The Germanic tribes trusted that the Roman silver was pure and valuable. Using these coins connected them to a vast network of trade that stretched all across Europe. It was a slow, gradual process. Many people still preferred to barter, trading goods directly. But the seeds were planted. The sight of a Roman denarius, or a Celtic stater in a German village, was a sign of the changes to come. It was the beginning of a long, incredible story of money in Germany. A story that would eventually lead to their own unique and powerful coins. Centuries passed, and the Roman Empire fell. Europe entered a new era. A great king named Charlemagne rose to power. He wanted to unite a vast territory, which included much of modern-day Germany. To do this, he knew he needed one thing: a single, reliable currency. Around the year 794, Charlemagne introduced a revolutionary reform. He declared that the only coin to be made in his entire empire would be a new silver coin. This coin was called the denarius, or as it became known in German lands, the Pfennig. It was a clean slate for money. This new Pfennig was a simple but elegant coin. It was made from pure silver, which gave people confidence in its value. On one side, it typically had a cross, a symbol of Charlemagne's Christian empire. On the other side, it had the king's name or monogram. This was important. It showed that the coin was backed by the most powerful ruler in Europe. No longer did people have to rely on a confusing mix of old Roman coins or foreign currencies. Now, from France to Germany, there was one official coin. This made trade much easier and helped to knit his vast empire together. The Pfennig became the backbone of the economy for centuries. For a long time, it was the only coin in circulation. If you needed to buy something small, like a loaf of bread, you used a Pfennig. If you needed to buy something large, you didn't use a bigger coin, you just used a lot more Pfennigs. Sometimes people would even cut the Pfennigs into halves or quarters to make smaller change. This system, based on silver, was a huge step forward. It created a standard that everyone could understand and trust, laying the foundation for the German monetary system for the next 1,000 years. Charlemagne's reform was more than just about making new coins. It was about creating order and unity. By controlling the money, he controlled the economy. He set up mints in important towns across his empire, ensuring that the coins were all of the same weight and purity. This central control was a powerful tool for a king building a new empire from the ashes of the old. The humble silver pfennig was not just a piece of metal. It was a symbol of a new, unified Christian Europe, and the very first chapter in the story of Germany's own currency. After Charlemagne, his great empire eventually broke apart. The lands that would become Germany evolved into the Holy Roman Empire. But this was not a single unified country. It was a patchwork of hundreds of smaller states, duchies, bishoprics, and free cities. And almost every one of these little territories claimed the right to mint its own coins. This led to an incredible, but also incredibly confusing, variety of money. The simple pfennig of Charlemagne's time multiplied into a bewildering array of different coins, each with its own design, weight, and value. One of the most unusual coins from this period was the bractete. These coins were so thin that they could only be stamped on one side. The design on the front would appear in reverse on the back, like a faint echo. They were like delicate pieces of silver foil, often featuring beautiful and intricate designs of knights, saints, or mythical beasts. Because they were so fragile, they didn't last long. Rulers would often recall them once a year and issue new ones, a process that was essentially a form of taxation. Imagine having to change all your money every year. As trade grew more sophisticated, people needed larger coins than the small pfennig. Around the 13th century, new, bigger silver coins appeared. One of the most important was the groschen. Originally from Prague, the groschen was a heavy silver coin worth several pfennigs. It quickly became popular across Germany and was copied by many different states. At the same time, the influence of Italian trading cities brought gold back into the picture. German states began minting their own gold coins, called gold gulden, modeled after the famous Florentine florin. Now, a wealthy merchant had a choice of local pfennigs, larger silver groschen, and precious gold gulden. This vast diversity of coins tells a story of a divided but vibrant land. A traveler going from Hamburg in the north to Augsburg in the south might have had to change their money half a dozen times. Each coin was a miniature proclamation of local pride and independence. It featured the local duke's portrait, the city's coat of arms, or its patron saint. While it made long-distance trade a challenge, this explosion of coinage also fueled a rich culture of metalworking and artistry. The Middle Ages in Germany may not have had a single currency, but it had thousands of tiny metal messengers, each telling a tale of its own small kingdom. The Renaissance was a time of great change in art and science, and this was reflected in Germany's coins. Mints began using new techniques that allowed for more detailed and realistic portraits. The coins of this era are often stunning works of art. But the biggest innovation was the creation of a massive new silver coin that would conquer the world. Around 1518, a rich silver mine was discovered in Joachimsthal, a valley in neighboring Bohemia. The local lord began minting huge, heavy silver coins from this mine. They were called Joachimsthalers, which was soon shortened to just thalers. The thaler was a sensation. It was a large, reliable coin, containing a standard amount of pure silver. It was the perfect coin for an age of expanding international trade. German states quickly began minting their own thalers, each decorated with the proud portrait of the local prince or the emblem of a powerful city. The thaler became so popular that its name traveled the world. In the Netherlands it became the dalder. In Scandinavia, the daler. And when it was brought to the Americas, its name eventually evolved into the most famous currency of all, the dollar. A German coin from a small valley became the ancestor of the American dollar. Alongside the mighty thaler, gold coins also flourished. The most common was the ducat, a gold coin whose standard was copied from Venice. German dukes and kings loved to issue ducats with their own portraits, often as prestigious gifts rather than everyday money. These coins were symbols of immense wealth and power. Having a gold ducat was like having a luxury car today. It showed you were part of an elite club of rulers and merchants who operated at the highest levels of European society. The Renaissance was truly a golden age for German coinage, producing some of the most beautiful and influential money ever made. However, This era of artistic achievement was also shattered by one of Europe's most devastating conflicts, the 30 Years' War, from 1618 to 1648. As armies marched back and forth across Germany, rulers became desperate for money to pay their soldiers. They began to cheat. They would mix cheap metals like copper and lead into their silver coins, a practice known as Kipper und Wipper. This led to catastrophic inflation. People would receive coins that were worthless. Their life savings could be wiped out overnight. It was a terrible time that taught a harsh lesson. The value of money depends entirely on the trust people have in it. For centuries, the lands we call Germany were, well, a chaotic jumble of hundreds of states. Imagine traveling from Berlin to Munich. You would cross borders and have to change your money from Prussian thalers to Bavarian Gulden. Each state, whether it was the large kingdom of Prussia, the tiny duchy of Saxe-Coburg, or the free city of Frankfurt, proudly minted its own currency. This made trade complicated and was a constant reminder of the region's disunity. A merchant's purse would be filled with a confusing assortment of coins of different sizes, weights, and values. It was a coin collector's dream, but honestly, an economist's nightmare. This all changed in 1871. Under the leadership of Prussia and its powerful chancellor, Otto von Bismarck, the many German states were finally united into a single nation, the German Empire. To truly be one country, Germany needed one currency. A new law was passed to replace all the old varied coins. The new currency was called the mark. It was a modern decimal-based system. One mark was divided into 100 pfennigs. This was a simple, logical system that swept away the complicated mess of thalers, gulden, and kreuzers. For the first time, a coin from Hamburg was worth exactly the same as a coin from Stuttgart. The new imperial coins were symbols of this newfound unity and strength. The smaller coins, from the 1 pfennig to the 1 mark, had a uniform design. On one side, they showed their value. On the other side, they featured the imperial eagle, a powerful symbol of the new German Empire. This eagle, with its shield and crown, was on the money in everyone's pocket, a daily reminder of their shared national identity. It was a powerful piece of propaganda, signaling that the old divisions were over and a new, mighty nation had been born. The larger silver and gold coins, however, still kept a piece of the old Germany. While one side showed the imperial eagle, the other side featured the portrait of the local ruler of the state where the coin was minted. So, a 5-mark coin from Prussia would have the face of the Prussian king, who was also the German emperor. But a 5-mark coin from Bavaria would have the face of the Bavarian king. This was a clever compromise. It created a single, unified currency for the whole empire. But it also allowed the individual kingdoms and states to preserve a little of their old pride and identity on their money. The proud German Empire and its stable mark did not last forever. In 1914, World War I began, and, well, the war was incredibly expensive. To pay for it, the government stopped making coins out of gold and silver. Those precious metals were needed for the war effort. Instead, coins were made from cheaper materials like iron, zinc, and aluminum. The money in people's pockets became lighter and, honestly, less valuable. It was a dark sign of the trouble the country was in. The war ended in defeat for Germany in 1918, and the emperor was forced to step down. A new government, the Weimar Republic, was born into a world of chaos. But the worst was yet to come. To pay its massive war debts, the new government simply printed more and more money. This led to one of the most famous and frankly, terrifying economic disasters in history, the hyperinflation of 1923. The value of the mark collapsed. Prices spiraled out of control. At the peak of the crisis, a loaf of bread could cost billions of marks. People's life savings became worthless. They had to carry their money in wheelbarrows and laundry baskets just to go shopping. Coins disappeared completely, as the metal they were made from was worth far more than their face value. It was a national trauma that would scar Germany for generations. In late 1923, the government took drastic action to stop the chaos. A new currency, the Rentenmark, was introduced. One Rentenmark was worth 1 trillion of the old worthless marks. It was a bold move to restore faith in the currency. And, the plan actually worked. The hyperinflation stopped, and the economy began to stabilize. A year later, the Rentenmark was replaced by the new Reichsmark, which would remain Germany's currency until 1948. New coins were issued, made of bronze, nickel, and silver. They featured the German eagle, but it was a simpler, more modern design, without the old imperial crown. This period of crisis shows just how fragile money can be. The switch from silver coins to iron ones during the war and the nightmare of hyperinflation taught Germans a deep-seated fear of inflation and economic instability. The experience of seeing their money become worthless paper left a lasting impression. It helps explain why Germans, even today, value economic stability and a strong, reliable currency so highly. The coins from this era are not just historical artifacts, they are witnesses to a time of profound national suffering and desperation. After the devastation of World War II, Germany was a broken country. The victorious Allied powers, the United States, Great Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, divided Germany into 4 occupation zones. At first, they all used the old Reichsmark, but it was weak and unreliable. In 1948, the Western powers decided to create a new currency for their zones to help rebuild the economy. They introduced the Deutsche Mark, or DM. This move really angered the Soviet Union. In response, the Soviets created their own new currency for their eastern zone, the East German Mark. The currency reform of 1948 was the final step that cemented the division of Germany into 2 separate states. For the next 40 years, there were 2 Germanys and 2 sets of German coins. In West Germany, the Federal Republic of Germany, the Deutsche Mark quickly became a symbol of the country's amazing economic recovery, the Wirtschaftswunder, or economic miracle. The coins were well made and had simple, clear designs. The Pfennig coins featured an oak leaf, a traditional German symbol of strength and endurance. The larger Mark coins showed the German eagle. West Germany also became famous for its beautiful commemorative coins, often made of silver, which celebrated famous Germans, historical events, and the country's rich cultural heritage. Meanwhile, in East Germany, the German Democratic Republic, or GDR, the coins told a different story. They were made from cheaper materials, mostly aluminum, which made them feel very light. The designs were meant to reflect the country's socialist ideals. Instead of just an eagle, the coat of arms on the coins featured a hammer, representing the workers, a compass for the intellectuals, and a ring of rye for the farmers. The coins celebrated industrial achievements, political anniversaries, and figures important to socialist history. They were a constant reminder of the political system that governed people's lives. Having 2 separate currencies created a very real barrier between East and West. The West German Deutsche Mark was a strong, internationally respected currency. The East German Mark was not. When the Berlin Wall was built in 1961, it became almost impossible for ordinary people to cross the border, and their money was worthless on the other side. For decades, the coins in a person's pocket were a clear indicator of which Germany they belonged to. These parallel sets of Pfennigs and marks, one from the West and one from the East, are a powerful reminder of a nation divided by the Cold War. In 1989, the world watched in amazement as the Berlin Wall fell. This incredible event paved the way for Germany to become one country again. On July 1, 1990, a crucial step towards reunification took place. The Deutsche Mark of West Germany became the official currency for the entire country. For East Germans, this was a momentous day. They could finally exchange their weak East German marks for the powerful West German Deutsche Mark. Long lines formed at banks as people eagerly traded their old money for new. The single currency was a powerful and practical symbol of a nation coming back together. For the next decade, all of Germany used the familiar Deutsche Mark coins. The oak leaf phoenix and the eagle-adorned mark circulated from the North Sea to the Alps. It was a period of great adjustment, as the economies of the former East and West slowly merged. The Deutsche Mark, once a symbol of West German success, was now the currency of a united Germany, helping to bind the two halves of the country together. It was a stable and trusted currency, and many Germans felt a strong emotional connection to it. It had seen them through post-war reconstruction and was now seeing them through reunification. But another historic change was on the horizon. Germany was a key player in the project of European integration. This project led to the creation of a single currency for many European countries, the euro. On January 1st, 2002, euro notes and coins were introduced, and the beloved Deutsche Mark was retired. This was a huge change. Germans had to say goodbye to their trusted mark and get used to the new euros and cents. It was a bittersweet moment for many, who felt they were giving up a piece of their national identity. The new euro coins have a unique design. One side is the same in all countries that use the euro, showing a map of Europe. But the other side, the national side, is different for each country. This allowed Germany to keep some of its traditional symbols. The German 1 and 2 euro coins feature the familiar German eagle. The 10, 20 and 50 cent coins show the Brandenburg Gate, a symbol of reunification. And the 1, 2 and 5 cent coins carry the old oak leaf, a direct link back to the pfennigs of the post-war era. So, even with a shared European currency, Germany's coins still tell a piece of their own national story. German coins are more than just money. They are a collector's paradise, filled with rare and valuable treasures. Some of the most sought-after coins are the large, impressive silver thalers from the old German states. A thaler from the 16th or 17th century, with a clear portrait of a long-forgotten duke or prince, can be worth thousands of euros. These coins are prized for their history, their artistry, and their sheer beauty. Another key area for collectors is the gold coinage of the German Empire, such as the 20-mark gold pieces. Coins from smaller states like Reuss or Saxe-Coburg-Gotha are particularly rare because so few were made, making them highly valuable. The turbulent 20th century also produced its share of rarities. Coins made from unusual materials during World War I, like iron, can be collectible, but some of the rarest pieces come from the Weimar Republic. For example, a few silver 5 Reichsmark coins from 1933 with the image of Martin Luther are extremely valuable. After World War II, one of the greatest rarities in all of German coin collecting was created. In 1950, West Germany planned to issue a 50 Pfennig coin with the inscription Bank Deutsche Länder. The inscription was quickly changed to Bundesrepublik Deutschland, but a very small number of the original version were accidentally released in the city of Karlsruhe. Finding one of these today is like finding a winning lottery ticket. East Germany, despite its use of cheap aluminum, also has its collector's items. Many of the commemorative coins issued in the GDR had very low mintages, making them scarce and desirable today. These coins, celebrating everything from the anniversary of the Berlin Television Tower to the philosopher Hegel, offer a fascinating window into the official culture of the socialist state. For collectors, they represent a closed chapter of history, a world that has completely vanished. The value here is not in the metal, but in the rarity and the story the coin tells. Today, even with the euro, coin collecting in Germany is alive and well. Germany issues special 2 euro commemorative coins, just like other Eurozone countries, which are very popular. More importantly, Germany is famous for its extensive program of silver and gold collector coins. Each year, new coins are released celebrating German fairy tales, scientific inventions, and important historical anniversaries. Furthermore, each of the 5 German mints, located in Berlin, Munich, Stuttgart, Karlsruhe, and Hamburg, uses a small letter to mark its coins. Some collectors try to get one of every coin from every mint, a challenging and rewarding pursuit that continues Germany's long and rich coin story.